So, how does the world's largest democracy feed more than a billion people? I mean, think about that. It's one of the most complex and critical challenges of our time. Today, we're going to dive deep into the massive system India has built to make sure its citizens don't go hungry.
Now, when you hear food security, you might think it's pretty simple, right? It's just about having enough food to eat. But you know what? It's so much more than that. The real definition goes way deeper, and it shows why this is such a tough nut to crack.
To really get a handle on this, let's use a simple framework, the 3 A's. For a country to be truly food secure, it has to nail all 3 of these. First, there has to be enough food available in the country. Second, people have to be able to physically access it. And third, and this is crucial, they have to be able to afford it. Miss any one of these and the whole system breaks down.
Okay, so let's start by officially unpacking that definition. Because really, this is the foundation for understanding everything that comes next in India's incredible journey.
So take a look at the language here. It's really specific for a reason. Notice these key phrases. At all times. That means no gaps, no hungry seasons. Physical and economic access. And nutritious food. See, this isn't just about preventing starvation. It's about giving people what they need for an active and healthy life. It's a high bar, and it's exactly what India's policies are shooting for.
To understand why India is so obsessed with food security, you have to go back in time. You have to go back to a single, devastating event that was burned into the nation's memory, the Bengal famine of 1943.
30 lakh. That's 3 million people. It's a staggering number. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around. This wasn't just a food shortage. This was a complete collapse of society, all because of hunger.
And these images, wow, they really bring home the human cost, don't they? These weren't just statistics. They were families, they were farmers and workers, forced to abandon their homes in a desperate search for food. So many of them never made it.
But here's where the story takes a fascinating and tragic turn. You'd assume the famine happened because there was no rice, right? A total crop failure. Well, look at this data. In 1943, the year of the famine, the total availability of rice was 79 lakh tons. That's actually more rice than was available in 1941. So, if the food was there, why on earth did millions of people starve to death?
And this is where the brilliant economist and Nobel laureate Amartya Sen comes in. He had a game-changing insight. He argued the problem wasn't availability of food, it was access to it. People lost their jobs, their ability to earn money to buy the food that was sitting right there in the markets. Their entitlement to food, as he called it, had completely collapsed. This idea, it changed everything about how we think about hunger.
So armed with this painful lesson, India set out to tackle that first A head-on: availability. After the trauma of the famine, the newly independent nation knew it could never again be dependent on others for its most basic need.
This wasn't just another government policy. This became a core national mission, almost a national obsession. The goal was simple, absolute: achieve self-sufficiency in food grains. And this single goal would drive decades of agricultural policy, leading to one of the most incredible farming transformations in human history.
And would you look at the results? This graph tells an amazing story. Propelled by what we now call the Green Revolution, India's food grain production just exploded. I mean, it skyrocketed. In a relatively short time, the country solved the availability problem, a monumental achievement.
But remember Amartya Sen's lesson, right? Having mountains of grain in the country is only step 1. Now came the really hard part. India had to build a system to tackle the other 2 A's, making sure all that food was actually accessible and affordable for its poorest citizens.
And this is the genius 2-part system they created. First, you've got the buffer stock. Basically, the government buys a ton of grain from farmers at a guaranteed price, creating this huge national reserve. Then you have the public distribution system, the PDS, and that's a massive network of ration shops that sells that grain to the poor at super low, subsidized prices.
Okay, so that's the theory. But how does this actually work for real people? To understand that, let's look at the story of Ramu, which perfectly illustrates how even people with jobs can be at risk.
See, Ramu's story is a classic case of what's called seasonal hunger. For 8 months of the year, when there's work in the fields, he's fine. He can feed his family. But for 4 months, during the off-season, his income completely disappears. For families like his, that safety net isn't just a help, it's a literal lifeline.
Okay, so that's the rural story. But what about in the cities, where work can be just as unpredictable? Well, let's take a look at Ahmad's story.
Ahmad is the only one earning money for his big family,
And as a rickshaw puller, some days are good, some are terrible. But his PDS card, that little yellow ration card, is his anchor. It guarantees that no matter what, he can buy the essentials at half of what they cost on the regular market. For his family, this system is the key to survival. It's that simple.
Now, a system this enormous doesn't just appear overnight. It's been constantly tweaked, constantly debated, and constantly evolving for over 70 years, responding to new challenges and learning from past mistakes.
You can kind of see the whole story right here. It started as a basic rationing system back in the 40s. For decades, it was universal. Everyone got it. But in '97, it was changed to be more targeted, to focus resources on the poor. And then came the biggest jump of all, in 2013, with the National Food Security Act. This law turned food from a government policy into a legal right for hundreds of millions of people.
And let's be clear, the impact has been undeniable. By solving availability with the Green Revolution and then tackling access and affordability with this massive safety net, India has successfully prevented another large-scale famine. That is a monumental achievement, any way you look at it.
But, and this is a big but, all this success has created a new, kind of ironic problem. Look at this chart. The first bar is the minimum amount of grain the government needs to keep in its reserves. The second bar is what it actually has. The government's warehouses are literally overflowing with grain, way more than they need.
And this brings us to the final and most critical question for India today. The granaries are full. The country has more than enough food, and yet hunger and malnutrition still persist. So how is this possible? It's the complex challenge India is grappling with right now. It's no longer a crisis of availability, but a stubborn, last-mile challenge of distribution, nutrition, and access, a fight that is far from over.